President Green, we are now ready for the 196th commencement exercises of Colby College.
Good morning. Congratulations, class of 2017. No surprise to me at all that the sun is shining brightly on all of you today. What a year, what a 4 years. Congratulations to you all. And as if it weren't enough, we have Vice President Joe Biden with us today. That means my job is to get out of the way very quickly in all of this so that we can make room for that and for your extraordinary class speaker. So Let me just say a couple words of welcome so that we can move this on. I also want to say, in addition to the students, of course, welcome to all the families, friends, and alumni who are here today. I want to recognize our brilliant and dedicated faculty and staff whose contributions are evident in all of you today. To our trustees and overseers with us on the stage, welcome and thank you for all you have done to lead this wonderful institution. And I want to say a special welcome to all of our neighbors from Waterville and the surrounding communities who are here. It was 204 years ago, in this country's infancy, when this college was founded. It was still 7 years before Maine was a state. In fact, it was granted statehood from Massachusetts, which why being 20 minutes from outside Boston is such a big thing here. Colby's founders, a group of Baptist leaders with vision, pluck, and persistence, saw in Waterville an emerging commercial and manufacturing center. It was, and still is today, a city for the hardy and hardworking, a place that values the mutually sustaining partnership with this college that once bore its name. The class of 2017 has furthered this partnership through their work with many Waterville organizations and by their deep connection to the world around us. This is a class that has dazzled and challenged us, and these graduates are ready to use their exceptional and unique talents to address the most pressing needs in our complex world. If their time at Colby is any predictor, this graduating class will lead the way into the future with sharp, creative intellects and compassionate souls, with respect for others and an openness to new ideas and perspectives. This is a group with a deep appreciation for the way that productive relationships can engender personal transformation and societal improvements. We have had the joy of learning and growing with you over these past 4 years. We know the journey to and through Colby would not have been possible for the class of 2017 without the love and support of many. And indeed, no path ahead will be navigated successfully without the guidance of others. I ask the graduating class to take a moment to acknowledge the faculty, friends, family, and others who helped you to arrive at this moment. In addition to the class of 2017, we recognize 4 individuals today through the granting of honorary degrees. We are privileged to have these accomplished leaders with us. Our honorands are recipients of the nation's highest honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom with Distinction and the National Medal of Science. They have been recognized globally for their work, including sharing in the Nobel Peace Prize, and have contributed to our understanding of and furtherance of culture, history, and architecture, climate science, and the devastating degradation of our natural environment, political trends and analysis that create a more informed citizenry, and to global peace, prosperity, and human health. We have seen from these remarkable leaders courage and passion, intelligence and commitment, extraordinary empathy, and the gift to lift the human spirit and move us toward a more just world. In these ways, they are emblematic of Colby's highest values and aspirations. Congratulations to the great class of 2017. Your imprint will always be felt here on Mayflower Hill, a place that will remain an intellectual home for you, and I hope a touchstone as your life unfolds in the most interesting ways. And it is now my pleasure to call to the stage your senior class co-president, Caroline Dove, to introduce our student speaker.
Sorry.
We're just going to make this up for Caroline and go from there.
I can whip out my phone. Okay.
Sorry. Congratulations to the class of 2017. Before introducing this year's class speaker, we want to thank all the families and friends in the audience who have made this moment possible. Thank you for all of the guidance, love, support you have given us throughout our 4 years on Mayflower Hill. We also want to thank the faculty and staff present here today. Your dedication to us, both inside and outside of the classroom, has greatly enriched our Colby experience and taught us what it means to be part of the Colby community. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce this year's senior class speaker, Muhab Esmat. Born in Kabul, Afghanistan, Muhab attended Deerfield Academy and completed a postgraduate year at King's Academy in Jordan. At Colby, Muhab serves as the Student Advisory Board Chair and a research assistant for the Colby College Museum of Art. He's also my senior class co-president. It's actually interesting because my good friend Grace Dunn was originally elected to serve with Muhab, but was unable to stay on campus in the fall. But I really could not ask for a more supportive and helpful partner to help guide me into this role. Without further ado, please welcome Muhab Esmat to the stage.
Good, how are you? Wow, this is crazy. I thought for a second I was going to introduce myself, and the first line that I wrote was like, "You're going to get tired of seeing me by the end of the day." So that didn't work out. Today not only marks the end of a journey for me, it also marks a big step toward understanding the fascination that we as millennials and even some of our parents are aware of, the craze surrounding memes and social media platforms. For those of you who don't know, the scientific definition of a meme is a humorous image, video, or a text, piece of text, etc., copied and spread rapidly by internet users. I've always wondered what it would be like to meet a meme celebrity. And today, I'm lucky enough to finally realize that dream with former Vice President Joe Biden here. Anyway, so I'm truly honored to be standing here. This is beyond unbelievable. I could say this is a dream come true, but I will be lying. Because I never could have dreamed about one day graduating from an elite college in the US, let alone having the honor to be the class speaker. We all hold our dreams as the pinnacle of our sought-after achievements. But sometimes there are things so far beyond our reach and comprehension that we don't even dream about them. Many years ago, I couldn't have even explained what the world outside Kabul looked like. I came to the United States in 2008 to attend a boarding school, and all I had was a bag full of thrift store clothing, LL Bean boots, and prayers from my family. You can decide which one of those three wasn't true. People often ask how I got here, and I give them the usual story of how merely I applied to boarding school and then Colby. But deep down, I still don't understand how I have been able to make it this far. There are thousands of young kids back home who probably deserve to be here 10 times more than I do. And the only way I can convince myself otherwise is through a simple story I often tell. When I was growing up in Kabul, there used to be a blind man who moved from mosque to mosque and would spend a couple days at each location. My parents would often pack whatever we had for lunch or dinner that day onto a plate, and we would walk it down to the mosque to give it to him. One day, I went to pick up the plates from the mosque. The man held my hand and said, "May Allah bring true all your dreams and grant you a life full of success." And I often think to myself, maybe that is why I'm standing right here in front of you. In life, we're blessed by strangers, something I've learned to be true during my 4 years at Colby. When I first found out that I would be speaking, I thought to myself, this is going to be hard. Especially since my first sentiment toward Colby was let me get this done and get out of this freaking cold forever. But over time, my sentiment began to change and develop in different ways. But what has caused this change? Was it coot? Definitely not. I'm still trying to figure out Big Blue Moon. No jokes. And I'm still utterly confused about why I had to sleep in a wet sleeping bag for 2 nights while I had a nice comfy bed in my room back on campus. Was it the weather? Probably not. I don't think I've ever been as self-conscious of my height than I have in the past 4 years. For every foot of snow on the ground, 1/5 of my height is buried. And we get many feet of snow. So you can figure out how I feel about that. Was it the petting zoo or the stress busters? I thought about this one for a second. But then I remembered I still haven't figured out how petting a goat or a cow can take my stresses away. I've also never gotten rid of my stress by karate chopping a board. Although judging from the dorm vandalism fines I have had to pay on behalf of my peers over the past 4 years, there are apparently some of us who get a rush of satisfaction from breaking things. If not the aspects of Colby I've shared with you, then what was it over these past 4 years that has defined my college experience? The unifying factor, and most certainly the highlight, has been the people around me. The once strangers that have become part of me. The life lessons I've learned from my peers, faculty, and staff at Colby are integral to the person I have become. Over these past 4 years, you might have found me staying up late memorizing the names of various rocks that today I still can no longer distinguish. All rocks look the same to me, to be honest. And don't even get me started on the pedantic fine-tuning of Chicago-style citations. While these moments will continue to slip out of memory, what I will remember forever is my peers who are staying up around in Miller doing the same thing. I will remember the staff. I'll remember Roxanne wishing every student an enjoyable meal. And I'll remember the time Andre and I chatted about my future plans and visa issues, to which he offered to reach out to his friends. I will also, of course, remember my many roommates and friends, including Charles, Doha, and Alan, with whom I shared both clear and easy moments. We often forget every moment and interaction that we share in life is a life lesson in its own right. As we leave Mayflower Hill today, some of us leaving Waterville, some of us leaving the state, and others the country, what we all be taking with us are the memories and relationships built over our time at Colby. As a group of strangers from Maine, 20 minutes outside of Boston, or thousands of miles away, Colby brought us together in the hopes of becoming well-rounded, deep-thinking, clear communicators. But most importantly, Colby has brought us together as strangers, but will send us away as friends. Whether a blind man in Kabul or our peers, faculty, and staff at Colby, they were all once strangers that have now become part of our lives. Leaving here today, remember to appreciate the strangers in your life, as they can give us treasured memories, life lessons, and become our family and friends. I wish you all good luck in what is to come after Colby, and will leave you with a short quote from my favorite poet, Rumi. From the outside, you see lifeless faces, strangers all, from Rome to Khorasan. What's behind those faces? Look again. To see the human ocean, look within. Thank you. Also, just last thing, I want to thank my parents who can't be here, but they're watching live for everything they did. Have a great day. Yeah, I know. I knew that you would be one of the people. Thank you.
Moheb forget his glasses. I now have the privilege of awarding the Condon Medal. The Condon Medal was established in 1920 through a bequest from Randall J. Condon, a graduate of the class of 1886 and a distinguished educator who was, for many years, superintendent of schools in Cincinnati, Ohio. With the exception of the World War II years, the medal has been presented annually by vote of the graduating class and the faculty to the senior or seniors who have exhibited during the college course the finest qualities of constructive citizenship. It is the one award that's given out to the seniors at this event each year. And this year's winner for the class of 2017 is Michelle C. Boucher. Constructive citizenship. It seems appropriate that this one award that's presented at commencement to a student honors the very qualities represented by our distinguished commencement speaker, Vice President Joe Biden. Some of you, of course, will know that he's not the first vice president to be here on stage at Colby College for commencement. That, of course, would have been President Lincoln's vice president in 1862. Who was a member of the Board of Trustees, Hannibal Hamlin, of Colby College. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. was elected U.S. Senator from Delaware in 1972 at age 29. That's not too far off for our graduates. And earned re-election 6 times for a total of 36 years in the Senate. As chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he worked on criminal justice issues and championed bills to fight crime and violence against women. Through his work on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Mr. Biden is credited with reaching a peacekeeping agreement in the conflict in Bosnia in the 1990s. His vast experience with international relations informed President Obama's decision to ask Mr. Biden to serve as his running mate, and in his role as Vice President of the United States, he visited more than 50 countries. Since finishing his second term as Vice President, Mr. Biden has continued advocating for Americans through his work with the Biden Foundation, the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware, and the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement at the University of Pennsylvania. Vice President Biden's history of working for positive change is made all the more remarkable by the circumstances under which he prospered. Early in life, he was mocked by his classmates for a stutter that he overcame in high school shortly before becoming elected junior class president. He debated giving up his Senate seat following the tragic death of his wife and daughter in the weeks before he was sworn in. Instead, he found a way to incorporate his family's values into his work as senator and vice president while addressing the issues he saw as critical to the people who were least likely to have a voice in Washington. To quote Mr. Biden's 2008 convention speech, "Failure at some point in your life is inevitable, but giving up is unforgivable." Vice President Biden's career in public service is truly, truly remarkable, and his humanity, so deep and visible at times of personal and national distress, is inspiring. I am honored to introduce you to the 47th Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think maybe I should sit down now. Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And Eric Rosengreen, Chair of the Board, Colby trustees, especially my good friend, Pete Rouse, Colby trustee. And I mean this I can say this without fear of contradiction, one of the wisest counsels that I think ever served as Chief of Staff for the President of the United States of America. Pete is a man of incredible personal integrity. and a good friend. I was friends with his mom and dad. They helped me when I was a 28-year-old kid announced for the Senate to get elected. And he has become close friends with my deceased son, Beau Biden, and my son, Hunter Biden. You're a trustee from Wilmington, Delaware, now living in Washington, Robert Hoops. I want to acknowledge you, Robert. Thank you. My fellow honorary degree recipients and Madam President and Mr. President, I've been to Kabul a number of times. For you to complain about cold is hypocrisy. I've never been so damn cold in my whole life as I was in Kabul. So it doesn't make Maine, although not as much snow, I acknowledge. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for choosing Colby. And please, I mean this sincerely, Mr. President, come back. Come back. We need you. We need you. And amazing Grace. Grace Dunn. Where are you, Grace? God love you, child. I tell you what, I am so proud of Grace. Grace Dunn. And ladies and gentlemen, to your honorees, my congratulations. Look, my mother, Grace, had an expression. She'd say to me, and I mean this sincerely, she'd say, "Look in my eyes, honey." If she said it to me once, I give her my word as a Biden, she said it 50 times. She'd say, "Remember, you're defined by your courage and you're redeemed by your loyalty." Gracie, she didn't know you, but she had you in mind. Remember, you're defined by your courage. You know, to all the proud Colby moms and dads here, congratulations. You're about to get a pay raise. No tuition next year for these guys. At least, maybe that's not quite true. But folks, your mom, dad, grandparents, your family made a lot of sacrifice for you to be here. So stand up and give them a cheer. Stand up and tell them what you think. You know, Mr. President, I find commencement speeches the most difficult to give. I mean it sincerely. And the reason I do is the faculty says, "Here we go again, my 15th commencement speech here." And the students say, "Hurry up, man, we got a party to go to." And the parents say something meaningful to justify that tuition. So I'm going to give it a try, but I'm not sure I'm capable. I'm inclined to do what a commencement speaker did the year that Pete Rouse graduated from here, 1968, and I graduated from law school. Bob Hope was the commencement speaker at Georgetown University that year. It was the middle of the Vietnam War. Things were getting worse, and he stood up after recognizing all the celebrities and faculty, and he turned and he looked at the students. He said, "I have one thing to say to you. Don't go." And he sat down. It was maybe the most meaningful speech that was given that year at the commencement. But you know, class of 17, you made it. I'm sure you arrived in this campus wondering what the next 4 years are going to be like. You weren't quite sure what to expect. And then a few days later, when the school chucked you out into the wilderness, and those few days of coot, oh, God, you're mean up here. And a wet sleeping bag? I mean, you know, you really didn't know what to expect, I expect. But in those 4 years, Colby has not only come to feel like home for most of you, I suspect, as what's watching your faces, has become family. It's become family and the people you're graduating with. It's even reflected in the way you talk about this place. The students, leaders who took you out in the woods, your coot, moms and dads, when you came together on Saturday night to share your Sunday, I guess it was, Sunday nights, to share your lives with one another at Page Commons, that's not some mandatory meeting. I'm told it's story time. And, you know, I often tell, as Pete Rouse has heard me say many times, the problem that's going on in the Congress now is we don't tell stories to one another anymore. Sounds silly, but I mean it. We don't know each other anymore. When you know somebody's mom has breast cancer, or you know somebody's dad just lost their job, or you know that you got a sister who is sick, it makes it hard to dislike that person. You get to understand and see their humanity. We used to know those things in Congress. You know those things here, I suspect, from Sunday nights. And now, after listening to your speech, Muhib, I finally understand all those hashtags about you that it carried. You know, you'll never forget the time you spent here, hunkered down with friends and hoarding food so you wouldn't have to leave the dorm during snowstorms, or reaching out to each other to get a Hungry Jack when the Dairy Cone finally opens each spring. But cheering on a hockey team that beat Bowdoin twice. But the thing that I hope you remember most from your time here is the ethos at Colby that sought to instill in each and every one of you your sense of obligation that you bear to one another as individuals, a culture of mutual accountability and caring. In other words, be a mule. Be a mule. That's what it's all about. You know, this past election cycle churned up some of the ugliest realities in our country. Civilized discourse and real debate gave way to the coarsest rhetoric and stoking of our darkest emotions. I thought we had passed the days where it was acceptable for politicians at all levels to bestow legitimacy on hate speech and fringe ideologies, even if it was just by their silence. But the world is changing so rapidly, there are a lot of folks out there who are afraid, good people. We know globalization hasn't been an unalloyed benefit for all communities struggling to get by. People are being displaced by technology, Moore's law, the whole notion of digitalization. People are worried. A lot of people are worried. There's an overwhelming need of continuing education. Those of you graduating even from the sciences, within the next 15 years, you're going to have to be re-educated. You can be an astrophysicist. So much is going to change. So much is going to happen to keep pace with your profession. You're going to have to continually be re-educated to keep up. And a lot of people out there know they have to do that without any capacity to do it. Don't know how to get by. And we saw how playing to their fears and appealing to their baser instincts rather than their better angels, as Lincoln talked about, can still be, at least temporarily, powerful in politics. We saw how appeals to the forces of populism can stoke anxiety and seek to blame the troubles of a rapidly changing world on the other. It's always the outsider. I wouldn't have lost my job but for. The reason I'm not doing well, the immigrant, the minority, the transgender, anyone not like me became a scapegoat. There's a reason I'm falling behind, why I can't get a job. And I imagine for many of you, seeing this unfold was incredibly disorienting and disheartening, a disheartening experience. It was for me and many, many Americans all across the country. And it's understandable, but I assure you it's temporary. I assure you it's transitory. The American people will not sustain this attitude. And now is the time for engaged leadership. So you have to hold on to the Colby mentality once you leave campus, because it will not only serve you well, it will serve our nation well. And that is not hyperbole. I mean that literally. You have to be responsible to join in the ceaseless work of perfecting a more perfect union. We hold these truths self-evident. that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We say those things, but think about what defines us as Americans. You cannot define an American based on their ethnicity. You cannot define an American based on religion. You cannot define America by anything other than an inherent acceptance of the notions contained within our institutional structures. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal. We don't always practice it, but we know that's why we belong, no matter where we come from. It's been a long, long climb, an uphill climb, to make it real, and we're nowhere near making it real yet. We haven't always lived up to our ideals. We're respected around the world not because of the exercise of our power, but the power of our example. That's why we're who we are. But it's especially in moments when the world is in disarray and our politics is in chaos, when there is a temptation to disengage, to throw our hands up, that's when it's most important for us to return to the basic principles. That's when we have to show that our ideals remain undimmed and it still matters to us as Americans. It sounds corny, but it's really true. It's really true. For me, it goes back to something my father taught me. My father used to say, and I mean it, this is not a joke, my father was a graceful, high school educated man who was well read and a truly decent man. And he used to say, Joey, every man, woman, and child is to be treated with respect and deserves to be treated with dignity. My father would never walk by someone begging. I'd say, Dad, but he's only going to use it to go out and drink. He said, do you think if he had any choice, he'd be standing here doing anything else than begging? No matter who it is, they're entitled to be treated with dignity. It goes to the very heart of what it means, I think, to be an American. The right to dignity is what undergirds these self-evident truths for which we always talk about. Look, furthermore, when we treat people with dignity, when we equip them with the ability to care for their families and maintain their dignity, it's harder for the politics of fear to find a home. So today, I want to talk to you about the importance of keeping dignity at the center of our society and at the center of your life as you go out into the world. Folks, each of you has a responsibility. You all know it. You've been taught it here. You taught it before you came here, to treat people with dignity. You demand it for yourselves. You demand that you be treated that way. And all of us have to do better when it comes to building the bonds of empathy that folks who aren't like us can know we understand them. Life can't be lived in this self-referential, self-reinforcing, self-righteous echo chamber we build for ourselves online. Living our screens encourages shallow and antiseptic relationships that make it easy to reduce others to stereotypes, to write another human being off as a bad person rather than someone who's just made a really bad decision. A person on the other side of the negotiating table, the other side of the political debate, a person who doesn't look like you, who lives in a community you've never visited, a person who has a different background or religion than yours. They're not some flattened version of humanity, reducible to a collection of parts and attributes. They're a whole person, flawed, struggling to make it in the world just like you. You have to work to ascribe to your opposition the same emotional complexity you find in yourself that you possess. Your Sunday story time, learning to listen to one another, shape your own story in turn, maybe among the most important things you've learned spending time here at Colby. Because so often, over the course of time in public life, I found that it comes down to just being personal. It's all about being personal. All politics, all international relations is personal. I have met every major world leader in the last 42 years, without exception. I've met an awful lot of people who are supposedly, in fact, were powerful. And I've found that not all those who are successful are happy. And I found the one common trait that those who found that sweet spot between success and happiness are those persons who are personal. Caring about your colleague that they're dealing with a sick parent, or that the child is graduating from college, or the child just was in an accident. That's the stuff that fosters real relationships, breeds trust, allows you to get things done in a complex world. It's the lesson I first learned when I got to the Senate as a 30-year-old kid. I didn't want to go to the Senate. I got elected on November the 3rd, and in November I was down hiring my staff on December 18th in Washington, D.C., and I got a phone call from a young woman who didn't know me, and that's why they had her call me, and she said in a monotone, "Mr. Biden, your wife is dead. Your daughter is dead. I'm not sure your sons are going to make it. You should come home now." My family was Christmas shopping, and a tractor trailer broadsided them, and all of a sudden everything changed. I learned a lesson from that. I didn't want to go, and Mike Mansfield, Ed Muskie, and some other senior senators said, "Just come and be sworn in and stay for 6 months. Only 1,703 people have ever been sworn in. Your wife worked hard to get you here. You owe it to your family." But I didn't want to go. So the day I was supposed to be sworn in, I refused to go to the Senate. And so I later learned I was probably the only senator in history ever sworn in a hospital, because I didn't want to leave my sons. So they sent the Secretary of the Senate up to the hospital to swear me in. And Senator Mansfield, who had more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body, used to have me come by his office every Tuesday at 3 o'clock and give me an assignment. I thought all senators got assignments. No senator gets an assignment. Not a joke. I'm the first senator I ever knew. I didn't know any better. But it took me about 2 months to figure out he was just taking my pulse to see how I was doing. It was the end of May, and I walked in. You see on C-SPAN, you see those 2 doors that senators always go through, those big swinging doors. And I walked down to the well of the Senate to determine when the last vote was going to be so that I could catch the train to go home to see my boys, which I did over 8,300 times, they tell me. And as I walked down the floor, a very strident fellow named Jesse Helms from North Carolina was excoriating Ted Kennedy and another good friend of mine, Bob Dole, who's still alive, God love him, for introducing the precursor for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And he was going on about it was not the role of government and no one had a right to tell a county or a business person or anyone else they had to have a curb cut or buses had to accommodate, et cetera. And I thought he was being heartless. So I sat down, and Senator Mansfield looked at me and said, "What's the matter, Joe?" And I went on for probably 3 minutes talking about how Jesse Helms had no social redeeming value. I thought he was terrible. And he looked at me when I finished and said, "Joe, what would you say if I told you that Jesse Helms, 3 years ago, sitting in his home in Raleigh, North Carolina with his wife, Dot, saw an advertisement in early December for a young man with braces up to his hips, 14 years old, and steel braces on his arms, saying, 'All I want for Christmas is someone to love me and take me home.'" So what would you say, Joe, if I told you Jesse and Dot Helms adopted that young man as their own child? I said, "I'd feel like a fool, Mr. Leader." He said, "Well, they did, Joe." And Joe, it's always appropriate to question another man or woman's judgment, but it's never appropriate to question their motive, because you don't know. And once you question motive, you make it impossible to reach a compromise. I say you're in the pocket of, or you're unethical, or I go in and talk about things that go to the heart of who you are as a person, your character. It's awful hard then to reach an agreement on an issue that has to be resolved. At the same time, you have a responsibility to stand up against indignities. You're committed, you have to be committed everywhere against any and all those folks out there who want to dim the rights of other people. But you can't start by questioning people's motives, because an injury to the rights of any person diminishes all of our humanity. The defining, if you're defending the dignity, requires an absolute intolerance of abuse of power at the end of the day. That's been the underlying principle behind every issue I've ever gotten involved in. I suspect all of you, where your political passion, your personal passion is directed throughout my life, and I guess yours. That's why I got involved in the civil rights movement as a high school kid, doing sit-ins. It's why I joined the environmental movement led by Senator Ed Muskie when I got to the Senate. It's why pushing back against companies who are abusing their power, polluting our environment. Something I'm sure many of you studied in your ES classes. That's why I pushed so hard against Slobodan Milosevic, a butcher in Belgrade, who was literally engaging in genocide. That's why I worked so hard and why I wrote the Violence Against Women Act in the late 90s. And that's why I remain committed to ending sexual assault, especially on campuses. My father used to say that the greatest sin was the abuse of power, and the cardinal sin of all sins was a man lifting his hand to a woman or to a child. Women have the same exact right to be treated with dignity as a man, and I am determined that my 4 granddaughters, who are capable of doing anything any man can do, anything any man can do, that they are treated that way. So each and every one of you has to stand up to the indignity of sexual assault. Stand against the indignity of excusing harassment. Talk about end this notion in locker rooms that the talk that goes on, it doesn't go on like somebody said it does. Stand up against the indignities of a culture that devalues women's humanity. And Michelle, congratulations to you on your award today. I'm so proud that Colby is recognizing your commitment and your service to preventing sexual violence. I know the entire Colby community has made a commitment to building a culture of consent for everyone here on the campus, including joining the It's On Us campaign, which I continue to be deeply involved in. I hope you'll carry that conviction with you out off this campus throughout your lives. In fact, hold on to all those convictions you learned here on the Hill, because you're going to face temptations along the way to rationalize and make choices that put people second. Everybody does. There's an incredible amount of pressure on your generation to succeed. You're already accomplished so much, but you might notice that you start slipping into a bubble that validates certain choices, that prioritize the social trappings of success rather than making a difference. Take the job, live in the place, hang out with people just like you, take no real risks, have no real impact. Defending dignity requires more than just watching out for your own opportunities or looking out for your own success, because no matter what you think, you cannot erect a bubble around yourself and your family to protect them. This degree won't protect you from the pressures of a changing world, as prestigious as it is. What happens to your community affects you. If your sister is a victim of domestic violence, you are violated. If your brother can't marry the man he loves, you are lessened. If your best friend has to worry about being profiled, you live in a circumstance that's not worthy of us. And if you cannot breathe free air and clean air, there's no place to hide, no matter how much money and success you accomplish. So, folks, you have to reach beyond yourself, because we know what's possible when people get a chance to explore their talents without being held back. There's no better example of that than my dear friend, Waterville lone George Mitchell, the last in a long line of majority leaders in the United States Senate, along with Bob Dole, who actually helped generate consensus in the Senate. He went on to be a great diplomat and a peacemaker, ending decades of conflict in Northern Ireland and literally, quite literally, saving hundreds and hundreds of lives. George is the son of a janitor. His dad worked right here at Colby. His mom worked in the textile mill. George, like me, understood watching his parents what my dad would always say. He'd always say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. The parents can tell you the most helpless thing a parent can face is looking at a child with an opportunity or a problem, knowing there's not a damn thing they can do to help them deal with either one. So, folks, they worked hard to give their kids lives filled with greater opportunity, to give George a chance to go to college and then to law school, a chance to choose a life of public service. So like George, regardless of your background, remember where you came from. Hold on to the way so many of you reached out to mentor young persons through the Colby Cares About Kids. Hold on to the way you engaged in this community. And make sure to bring that commitment to whatever walk of life you choose. Folks, class of 2017, no graduating class gets to choose the world in which they graduate into. That history has been written by those who came before you, but now it's your job to put your hands on the wheel and bend that arc of history closer to where we want to be as a nation. The journey to perfecting this union is never complete. There's always new challenges ahead, challenges that make it seem like it's too daunting for one person to have any impact, make any difference. But individuals always make a difference. Sometimes perspective is important. I remember what it felt like as I sat where you're sitting now in 1968, graduating into an uncertain world. My final year, when America thought the war in Vietnam was drawing to a close, when Pete and I thought, well, maybe we're not going to Vietnam. Maybe my generation, the war is ending. We were told there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, as Lenny Bruce, the comedian, said, it turned out to be a freight train. The war was supposedly drawing to a close, yet the Viet Cong launched the Tet Offensive in an effort to end the war in one single seismic assault. 2 days into that offensive, there's an iconic photograph even you have seen, although it was years and years ago, of a policeman standing in a busy intersection in Saigon with the Viet Cong with his hands handcuffed behind his back, holding a revolver to his head. The photographer captured it, blowing the man's brains out. That bullet not only pierced the soldier's skull, it pierced America's consciousness as well. And it brought home to everyone in my generation that was ready, that there was no end in sight. There was no light. Peaceful anti-war demonstrations turned up all over the country, and that some turned violent all across America. Instead of the war winding down, violence in Vietnam exploded that year that we graduated. 17,000 Americans killed that year, just that year alone. The war was supposed to end. The sitting president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who coveted the presidency, announced he would not seek a second term. Then in April, Dr. King was assassinated, gunned down in Memphis. Cities, including my own hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, went up in flames. My hometown is the only city in American history since the Civil War, occupied by the National Guard for 7 months. So as I walked across that stage to receive my diploma that day, I learned that the only political hero I ever had just been assassinated. The hope of my generation, Bobby Kennedy, was assassinated. Died with that assassin's bullet in the kitchen in Los Angeles after having been declared the winner of the California primary and the likely nominee. 2 fallen American heroes in a matter of weeks, and many more fallen Americans all across the globe in Vietnam. For my generation, for my graduating class, the once prevailing hope of better days ahead was gone, shot through with pain and grief of a nation that viewed itself on the brink. And all throughout this great country, a sense of hopelessness and helplessness began to take hold. That was the world that Pete and I entered into. That was history that had been written for us up to that point, not by us. But in spite of all of that, as I walked across that stage, I never doubted for one instant that we could change the history that we were handed, that we could rewrite the outcome we were careening toward. And it didn't matter that at the time, the overwhelming zeitgeist was that just drop out, don't trust anyone over 30, hate Asbury. I'm deeply proud that that generation that graduated took to the streets, got involved, stepped up. 4 years later, I ran against the war in Vietnam, was elected to the United States Senate. The same year that Bill Cohen, a great friend of mine and a great senator here, was elected to Congress. We were both ran Republican, Democrat, determined to end the war. Not long after that, I sat in the cabinet room as a young senator across from President Ford, demanding to know what the final plan was. He finally turned to Henry Kissinger and to Jim Schlesinger and said, all right, lay it out. 4 weeks later, bodies were being lifted off the top of the roof of the Saigon, and the war was ending. That was 1968. This is 2017. Now it's your turn. You're graduating into a world of anxiety and uncertainty. You're walking across this stage without knowing exactly what's going to be on the other side. But there's no reason why your generation can't do the same and better than ours does. You are better equipped. You're better equipped, you're better educated. You're more informed, you're more engaged to deal with what lies ahead than my generation was. Ladies and gentlemen, you have better tools. You're in a position now where you have the power. There's a power in that iPhone you have is 10 times more powerful than all the computers that sent the man to the moon. We have 3D printers now restoring tissue after traumatic injury, actually beginning to be able to produce body parts for transplants. Software translates real-time conversations into multiple languages. Technology is there to fight climate change, cure cancer. I'm optimistic. I don't believe there's anything we cannot overcome. If we remember who we are and what we've always striven to be, a nation grounded in dignity, a nation that thinks big, a nation of optimists who believe there's nothing beyond our capacity. What's happened to that notion in America? In both political parties, we talk about things in incremental terms. When the hell has that ever been the American spirit? When? And there's an overwhelming reason to be optimistic. I say to all you parents, the United States is better positioned than any nation in the world to own the 21st century. We have the most productive workers in the world, the most agile system of venture capitalism, the greatest research universities in the world. Every other research university in the world combined does not equal what exists here in the United States. We're the epicenter of energy production for the remainder of this century. So it's time. It's time for America to get up. It's time to regain our sense of unity and purpose. It's time for us to start realizing who in God's name we are. And it's time for your generation to remember the admonition that my philosophy professor told me. I remember him leaving the last class. And he looked at us and he said, as if we all knew, he said, remember what Plato said. And then we all thought, what the hell is this going to be? But he said something fairly profound. I'm going to augment it slightly. Plato said, the penalty good people pay for not being involved in politics is being governed by people worse than themselves. All the polling data shows your generation is by far the most tolerant, the most capable, the most engaged of any generation in American history. But it also shows you don't want to be engaged in politics. Overwhelmingly, you don't want to be engaged in the process. You have to be. You have to be, for our own safety's sake. God bless you all. Enjoy the parties, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, your optimism, your defense of dignity are words that we will take away from this place on this beautiful day and remember for a very long time. On behalf of Colby College, thank you for that. Returning to my script, President Green, I would like to present to you the candidates for honorary degree. I have the honor to present for the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
Joseph R. Biden, Jr., a public servant in the truest sense of the word, you saw government as your path to improving the lives of all Americans, all people. You turned personal challenges into inspiration for action, more recently through your efforts to combat the devastating effects of cancer. As a senator and the 47th Vice President of the United States, your work to advance global diplomacy, to fight violence, and to ensure a better future for middle-class families and our country's veterans has shown that change is possible through passionate advocacy. By the authority of the Board of Trustees of Colby College, I confer upon you, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. The hood with which you have been invested in this diploma are the visible symbols of your membership in this society of scholars.
I have the honor to present for the degree Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa, Yoshihiro Takashita.
Yoshihiro Takashita, from an early age, you have led a movement to preserve rural Japanese culture as a rescuer and restorer of traditional Japanese farmhouses. Initially trained in law, you studied architecture as your work to save and renovate dozens of these elegant, centuries-old houses of the people became a calling and a crusade. Your passion for these antique, folk-crafted monuments to rural domestic life helped redefine progress, finding inspiration in the past. Your reverence for the sturdiness and grandeur of this traditional Japanese dwelling established the minka, as these homes are known, as a vessel of memory for your culture. By the authority of the Board of Trustees of Colby College, I confer upon you, Yoshihiro Takashita, the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa. The hood with which you have been invested in this diploma are the visible symbols of your membership in this society of scholars.
For the degree Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, Amy Walter.
Amy Walter, trusted and respected by people across the political spectrum, you've earned extraordinary access to the American political system and its practitioners, and that access contributes to your unique understanding of the nexus of public opinion and national politics. Your ability to synthesize disparate strands of information into a genome of knowledge makes your commentary invaluable to the media and the American people. Your integrity and objectivity, your understanding of political history, and your rare acumen have well served our democracy and have brought honor to you and your alma mater. By the authority of the Board of Trustees of Colby College, I confer upon you, Amy Walter, the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. The hood with which you have been invested and this diploma are the visible symbols of your membership in this society of scholars.
For the degree Doctor of Science honoris causa, Warren Washington.
Warren Washington, pioneer in computer modeling of Earth's atmospheric systems, advisor to generations of American presidents, respected leader of prestigious national scientific initiatives, mentor and advocate for diversity in the sciences. For more than half a century, your life's work has propelled scientific understanding of one of humanity's most troubling legacies and challenges, global climate change. Combining climate science and sophisticated computational modeling, then using findings in advocacy and policy work, your career is a model of Colby's belief that multidisciplinary approaches to real-world problems holds our best hope for the future welfare of our planet and humankind. By the authority of the Board of Trustees of Colby College, I confer upon you, Warren Washington, the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa. The hood with which you have been invested in this diploma are the visible symbols of your membership in this society of scholars.
Here we go. All right, so I have one last thing to say to the class before I present you to the president, which is, class of 2017, congratulations, and you are not allowed selfies when you come up here. But you are in for a really nice treat, so trust me on that. Here we go. President Green, I am honored to present to you the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
I will ask for the trustees for their consent in Latin, of course. Hosca iunes, vere clarissimi, piesque collegi coratoris, iam ordine stordiorium designado functos, non tanquam literarum expertos, atque pectoro recto culto robusto garentes, actori mihi commissa, et vobis cosentiantibus ad gradum baccalaureum admitto. Then let's go.
All right. All right. By tradition, the highest ranking member and class marshal of the senior class receives the first diploma. This year, the highest ranking member and class marshal is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Aydinish of Karachi, Turkey. I present to you Batanay Aydinish. Should we do it the other way? Put it on the other side. So graduates, you're actually going to each get a handshake from Vice President Biden. Here we go. All right. Sydney Kenyon Abrams. In your watch, to let me know if I'm going too fast. All right. I'll do it again. Ready? That's Sydney Kenyon Abrams. Jaritza Arlene Abreu. Benjamin Whitney Ock. Henry Maxwell Ackerman. Karen Ames Adams. Jacob Edward Adamson. Abukar Awad Ada. Ernesto Aguilar Arizmendi. Olivia Margaret Ainsworth. Farah Alalami. Devin Gerard Albert. Alexandra Christine Allman. Olivia Susan Amber. Alyssa Sue Andrews. Luke Perrin Andrews. Madeline Margaret Andrews. Joseph Salvatore Anile IV. Kimberly Wong Anchor. Nicholas Michael Archibald. Salone Antonio Arguello. Ryder James Arsenal. Samuel Dogan Arthur. Johannes Duris Asege. Jenna Elizabeth Athanasopoulos. Michaela Brianne Athanasopoulos. Cleo Tamara Auckland. Danielle Janae Bagley. Elizabeth Lucy Bainbridge. Elizabeth Marcia Baker Wax. Catherine Evans Balaguer. Grace Chandler Baldwin. Craig Richard Ballard. Alexander Carlos Balsba. Lauren Catherine Barnhart. Thomas William Barry IV. Sophia Marie Bartels. Emma Marie Bartlett. Jessica Paley Batchelter. Oriana Catherine Bataforano. Lainey Nicole Battiston. Andrew James Beechan. Anna Banks Beatty. Charles Mackay Beck. Aaliyah Michelle Bell. Alexandra Al Belzer. Joseph Jerome Benson Jr. Emma Grace Berger. Jacqueline Elizabeth Betts. Amy Marie Bianco. Leah Catherine Bilodeau. Madeline Jo Bistrong. Brandon B. Blackburn. John Franklin Blackburn Jr. Michaela Jo Blanche. Michael Joseph Boardman. Isaac John Bowe. Sarah Catherine Boland. Ben Lerner Bostwick. Michelle Clarita Boucher. James Fenwick Bowen. Frederick McPhee Bauer. Elizabeth Deming Brady. Gemma Elizabeth Breedy. Erin Odette Breen. Anna Elizabeth Brogan. Acadia Claire Grace Brooks. Cecil Kenneth Brooks Jr. Victoria Evelyn Brown. Margot Miller Bruder. Connor James Bruin. Elizabeth Morgan Bryan. Yannick Bucci. Grant Nelson Burfine. Riley John Burke. Jeremiah Stanford Burns III. John Daniel Burton. Alexa Lloyd Busser. Grayson Murphy Butler. Julia Reed Butler. Catherine Irene Butler. Kaylee Marie Buxbaum. Pedro Khalil Caballero IV. Jonathan Daniel Cabor. Ariel Serena Camacho. Zachary Thomas Kenjemi. Anthony Louis Caballino. Catherine Elizabeth Carey. Grace Saloy Carroll. Kathleen A. Carroll. Justin B. Carey. I'm going to win. Mary Kate Lillian Caverly. Clayton Yi Chang. David Singye Chilimo. Sao Sing Chen. Yang Chen. Catherine Christopher Shanai. Rebecca Jane Shimio. Yuna Shen. Dylan J. Sincata. Thomas Charles Clary. Ryan Samuel Clemens. Christina Nicole Cobb. Madeline Helen Cohen. Ashley Niner Conley. Joseph Angelo Connolly. Abby Leet Cooper. Carmen Cordova. Christine Covini. James Domingo Craig. Samuel Albert Cremings. Anquinique Dancy. Zoe Laura Daniel. Mira Angela DeVay. Wilder Robert Downs Davies. Jasmine Michelle Davis. Celie Mare Daigle. Kay Gleckler DeGraw. Lucas Antonio de la Cruz. Andrew James Della Volpe. Patrick Connor Denniger. Hannah Elizabeth Deneen. Catherine Marie DeCipio. Hugh Patrick Doherty. Kevin William Doherty. Maeve Elizabeth Dolan. Larkin J. Domench. Nicole Taylor Donato. Christina Tien Oi Dung. Roy Mumford Donnelly. Susanna Blythe Donahoe. Robert Joseph Donahue. Anna Lillian Donovan. Natalie Louisa Dopstadt. Sean Thomas Doherty. Caroline Mercer Dove. Brandon Joseph Doyle. Francis Edward Dunham. Julia Margaret Dunleavy. Catherine Ann Dunn. Grace Marie Dunn. Eliza Temple Dunn. Leah Cole Durst. Silas Jonathan Eastman. Kerry Nelson Eaton. Michael Ecke. Maria Enamorati. Taylor Page Enrico. Mahebula Ismat. Harper Glenn St. Brandon Griffin Fallberg. Ree Fenn. Teresa Diane Farley. Grace Elizabeth Farnkoff. Dimitri Alexis Malik Farthing Jr. Scott Alexander Fenwick. Caroline Elizabeth Ferguson. Lily Charlotte Fernald. Maurice Eduardo Ferre. Jillian Elise Fleischer. Delaney Marie Flynn. Jack Connor Alden Flynn. Jenna Lind Foster. Catherine Lindsay Photos. Grace Winthrop Fowler. Kai Brandon Frankville. Tristan Callie Friedman. Lisa Fujitake. Andrew James Fullerton. Griffin Scott Gagnon. Shane Gallagher. Duncan Alexander Gans. Michaela Malin Garrett. Yuzua Gung. Sharunas Ganis. Dana Elizabeth Getcho. Zoe Camille Gibson. Logan Michael Gillen. Janae Andrea Gilliard. Cara Gwen Goldfarb. Natalie Claire Goodman. Sarah Jane Grady. Brandon Kip Grant. Shauna Michelle Grant. Rebecca Grace Gray. Weichi Gu in absentia. Anita Belen Guaman. Lucinda Rose Gulino. Wei-Jin Wo. Rebecca Sophie Haft. Kadish Dunbar Hagling. Jackson Montgomery Hall. Joseph Sampson Hamilton. Caitlin Rose Hamilton. Tarini Shaker Herdeker. Lindsay Marie Harrigan. Gabrielle Flynn Harrington. Nathan Harper Harris in absentia. James Edward Harvey. Mardine Asbury Haskell. Sonita Hav. Matthew Deering Hawkins. Caitlin Molina Heaps. Hannah McGuire Hearn. Emma Hopkins Heilbrunner. Sarah Rose Heilbrunner. Emily Alice Held. Joshua Daniel Hughes. Lucas Alsop Hickok. Harry Wellington Hill. Cameron James Hillier. Kaylee Elizabeth Hoffman. In absentia. Is Kaylee? I have Cameron James Hillier. Then Kaylee Elizabeth Hoffman, who's here. Matthew Thomas Hoffman. Margaret Ann Hoylo. Isabel Holland. I'm going to give you your due. Benjamin Henry Holzer. Malik Horton. Simon Vaid Oisenbachs. Elizabeth Crosby Huber. Thea Sabrina Hudson. Phoebe L. Hughes. Deanne Elizabeth Human. Jabari Tariq Hurdle Price. Hannah Michelle Insick. Eleanor Louise Irish. Catherine Rose Irwin. Faz Ashid Islam. Anna Grace Jackson. Sophie Elizabeth Janeway. Melissa Gael Ja. Laura Ann Jensen. Jiwang Jiang in absentia. Shengcheng Xia. Leah Jimenez. Madeline Nicole Jern in absentia. Catherine Mary Johnson. Spencer Fike Johnson. Preston Prakash Johnson Chunker. Catherine Dorothy Jones. William Gregory Julick. Kiana Emily Kawamura. Megan Leach Kelly, John Carlo Kinsinger, Kate Elizabeth Karen, Ann Elizabeth Kettler, Eric Kim, Amanda Phyllis Kirsch, Emily Ann Klein, Joseph Daniel Knight, Eleanor Jane Knutson, Alexander James Kramer, Anna Elizabeth Krause, Emma Rose Kewen, Tanya Qureshi, Haley Eden Kushner, Hannah Rose Quasman, Hannah Catherine Lacasse, Albertha Ladina, Lucas Minghao Lam, Tiffany Carol Lamb, Justin Chapin Lemire, Elizabeth Marie Landry, Lydia Rose Larson, Jacob Forrest Laser, Julian Roy Loretti, Erin Lavoie, Emery Moses Lawrence, Fuang Ming Lei, Emily Elsie Leach, John James Leahy, Christopher Kai Lee, Duan Lee, Samuel Carmen Lefebvre, Simone Kathleen Leung, Henry Davis Levine, Robin Christopher Lewis, Tyler Rex Luton in absentia, Carson Dino Robuzzi Leidecker, Lee Suen, Yushen Lee, Jun Shanglin, Carl Carmelo Lupani, Madeline Sheehan Lipton, Saran Lukasemsar, Anush Michelle Longerston, Grant Christopher Lowenson, Ichen Lu, Georgia Williams Lubrano, Alexandria Hayden Lucas, Nora Marie Maybe, Lydia Tyner McDougall, Nathan Lewis Madeira, Alexandro Luigi Malioni, Lena Makino in absentia, Joseph Daniel Malionek, Robert Milongo. Todd Fenton Manley. James Forrest Manning V. Christopher James Morano. Madison Tisdale Mira. Luke Yuki Wider Mary. Spencer McKelvey Martin. Brian Eugene Martinez. Mark Martinez. Andrew Henry Martzoff. Esther Hughes Leventhal Matthew. Ryunosuke Matsura. Patrick Cook McCarthy. Kellen Norbert McDonald. William James McElroy. John Richard McGeehee. Leo Zenzing McGinnis. Kathleen Claire McLaughlin. Abigail Green McCosker. Jane Ann Mesner. Catherine Ann Mateo. Emily Mary Alexandra Middendorf. Amanda Jane Millet. Molly Divine Mizuzawa. Tommaso Montani. Gregory Michael Morano. Ann Alston Morris. Deanna Mary Morris. Nicholas James Morris. Henry Tipton Morris Walrap.
Hey, Dad.
All right. Ketiwe Moahi Motlatsi Motlana. Emily Oxford Muller. Jacques-Antoine Mutu Caron. Octavia Vlad Morad. Akira Thomas Murphy. Liam Clark Murphy. Celeste Mary Murtha. Claire Louise Muscat. Nadia Mustafa. Ryota Raymond Nakata. Gianna Marie Nappi. Madeline Fraser Nider. Eric William Nesto. Jamais Ni. Caitlin Grace Nolan. Elizabeth Ann Noyes. Afia Asantua Obey. Lucas King O'Connell. Allison Rose O'Connor. Thomas Mark O'Donnell. Madeline Claire Ogerholm. Thomas Frederick O'Shea. Alan Michael Ottenstein. Gerald Owusu. Catherine Grace Paget. Lawrence Joseph Patrizio. Sarah Archer Peck. Caroline Copeland Pelham. Julia Bella Perlmutter. Alexandra Taylor Perticone. Sava Pedowich. Hannah Amanda Piersack. Lev Samuel Pincus in absentia. John Joseph Pintaro. Alexandru Mihai Pleasure. William Moriarty Polk in absentia. Kelsey-Ann B. Poole. Logan Barnard Poole. Rachel Deanne Prestigiacomo. Erin Bridget Purcell Malett. Will Chen. Shuyuan So. Frederick T.W. Randall. Edward Joseph Rossio, Jr. Luke Christian Rector. Allison Marie Redhunt. Josiah Winship Reed. Nathaniel Bartley Reese. Chelsea Burnett Regan. Carl Joel Reed. Colin Joseph Riley. Michael Anthony Ramondi. Molly Rachel Rich. Talia Maya Indigo Richkin. Alexander Brian Rinker. Calvin Chandler Robbins. Kenneth Wesley Robbins III. Michael Joseph Roberts Jr. Florence Kilborn Robinson. Rebecca Leteal Robinson. Cassandra Ono Rogers. Craner Roca. Nicholas Ryan Rosenberg. Jenna Elizabeth Rumble. Megan Alexandra Rumpf. Timothy Raymond Ryan. Eugene Hire. Buju Sagarolu. Vivek Kumar Sa. Ryan Michael Salerno. Austin Bartholomew Sayre IV. Sienna Theodora Schickler. John Dylan Sears. Kumba Sado. Amar Sheikh. Kevin Reynolds Seiler. Benedict Joseph Semmes. Maxwell Eaton Seneschal. Carolina Astrid Dorothea Sirhen. Duncan Henry Sewell. Lake Jesse Seymour. Oliver James Shawn. Demosthenes Conrad Sherman. David Allen Sheris Jr. Henjing Chu. Lauren Christine Shirley. Paige Elizabeth Shortsleeves. Natalie Claire Sill. William Raymond Simmons. Edward Farron Simpson. Alton Hale Sousa. Brendan J. Six in absentia. Alexei Skurnik. Daniel Christopher Smith. Kiernan John Gregory Summers. Brian Michael Summers. Annabelle Juang Song in absentia. Robin Emmons Spotford. Morgan Faith Springer. Miles Aaron Stevenson. Elisa Fumika Stern. Allison Emma Sturtzer. Roger Hugh Stone Jr. Thomas Albert Stone. Nadia Lynn Stovacek. Catherine Owen Strawinski. Jeffrey Welch Sullivan. Landon Jack Summers. Sophie Anna Sweats. Molika Tassi. Hayung Tong. Aremi Tapia Torres. Molly Mayweather Taylor. Palmer Ingram Taylor. Maya Max Terry Schindelman. Hold on. Christina Ann Thomas. Travis Taylor Thompson in absentia. Noah Xavier Tachi. Esther Topolarova. William Pearson Trainer. Conrad William Trost. Aing Fueng Wu. Maria Fernanda Urrutia Gonzalez. John Alexander Velis. Mary Kelton Vance. Ashley Winona Vandal. Eliza K. Van Leesten. Janet Griselda Vasquez. Anne Camille Vetter. George Anton Alexander Voigt. Katrina Lauren Von Hahn. Justin Haggerty Wallagory. Karina Matthews Wallach. Eric Shaw Walton. Zuto Wang. William Frederick Ware. Kara Ann Webb. Michael Charles Weber. Erin Elizabeth Whitney. Braden Edward Wilson. Julian Wise. Alexander Louis Wolanski. Ivan Yang. Sabrina Weiju Yang. Lucas Akio Usuda. James Quillian Yates. Iza Nawazish Ali Zadi. Hannah Melissa Zayas. Huan Zhang. Jai Zhang in absentia. Renjiang Zhang. Shenjiang Zhen. Zi Zhen. Edward Ongping Zhou. President Green, this concludes the awards for the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Graduates, you can now toss your caps if you would like.
This is the first commencement I've ever been to where getting the diploma was an afterthought. I hope we got them right. Congratulations, class of 2017. I'll ask the senior class members of Colby's many singing groups to now lead us in the singing of the alma mater. And following the alma mater, please remain standing for the sending.
of problem sets and late nights in the library and controlling your urge to Netflix and chill endlessly through many a Maine winter, through many seasons of roasting non-kosher animals, and Shabbat dinners, Sunday masses, and Juma prayer, sunrises on these hallowed steps, and finding out a little bit more about who you are by challenging yourself to know others so different from yourselves. You have done it. At this liminal moment, I hope you can reflect on the privilege of a liberal arts education. Your teachers and classmates have helped you not only to attain the skills and ability to work hard, but I hope and pray also the wisdom to distinguish what is actually worth hard work and when you need to stop to enjoy your life and tend to the friendships and family relationships that will ultimately come to define your legacy. To quote the wisdom of Rabbi Ella Fitzgerald, "The man who only lives for making money lives a life that isn't necessarily sunny. Likewise, the man who works for fame, there's no guarantee that time won't erase his name. Industriousness is not a value in and of itself, especially if it is in the service of ignoble goals. May you cherish the wisdom and safeguard the joy you have experienced at Colby College and choose your life goals deliberately. May you be agents of true integrity, care, love, and ensuring the dignity of your fellow human beings. May you labor for the best of who we can be and know when to pause to keep perspective about what and who really matters. For as Rabbi Fitzgerald teaches, the fact is the only work that really brings enjoyment. Fall in love, you won't regret it. That's the best work of all if you can get it. May the paths you pursue lead you to the best work of all, the work of nurturing love and cultivating our better angels. Mazel tov and congratulations.